What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Sports Couch. I'm your host, Craig Bergner. I appreciate you spending some time with us today. We got fishing on the brain. We have Walleye event number 3 on the Winnebago chain for head-to-head. And luckily for me, I have the man, the myth, the legend on the couch today. Let's give it up for Tyler Corey. Tyler, what's up, man?
What up?
Yeah.
Event 3.
Event 3 already.
We are already close to cresting the halfway point in this Walleye League season. After Wednesday, we will be closing in on 50% done for the year, which is pretty wild.
Anytime you crest anything, it's got to be a good thing, right? Yeah, so
absolutely.
Yeehaw.
But that means it's do or die for some teams.
Heck yeah.
Already this early in the season are talking about some teams who are kind of on the ropes already, which is surprising.
After this week, could it be curtains for certain teams?
It's still tough to say because if they win out, they could still end up with a winning record. But there are some teams with some really low season total weights right now. They need some help. There are some teams that have gone 0-2, and they need to right the bus. It would do them a world of favors. I'm not saying that they're out, but it would do them a world of favors to put a win in the win column this week.
Yeah, starting the year 0-3, you're looking at quite the uphill climb.
Correct.
And you need a lot of things to go in your favor, so let's hope they just handle business.
Yeah.
Put a W in the win column,
right.
And we'll see how it plays out from there. Yeah, the Walleye guys back at it. Back at it in Winnebago.
Yep, back
Lady
to back.
Winnebago, baby.
Here it is. Bago proved to be pretty stingy the last time out there.
Yeah.
We have some weather conditions looking at them before the show that are going to make this one should be a little more favorable than the first.
Okay. And we talked a little bit last week. Maybe they'll take what worked, what didn't work, and, incorporate it into this week's event. We're all hoping for bigger weights.
Yeah.
It was a grind.
Absolute grind.
Week.
Absolute grind.
Yeah.
We'll see. That was like we talked about last week. That was very much a fish were transitioning, which doesn't help. They're constantly on the move. They're tough to keep track of. And then we had changing, inconsistent weather conditions, which in the springtime is not always favorable. Kind of encourages those fish to move. If it's stable, they like to stay in one place. But if it's unstable, changing conditions, they have a tendency to move around. And then we just had a lot of this in the temperature. Yeah. Low nightly lows with really high daily high. And that affects the water temperature. And once again, inconsistency in the springtime is not ideal.
And we saw last week some pretty big waves out there that they were competing with. Like, it seemed like the perfect storm to have a really pitcher's duel, right?
Grimy day.
Yeah.
Grimy day.
It was a grind. Let's see what they can take. And you said the boys were out there pre-fishing. You've seen a couple of the guys.
Absolutely.
They're out there pre-fishing, getting their bearings in order.
Yeah.
So let's see what event number 3 brings us.
Yeah, and last week really kind of seemed like a Winnebago blindside for a lot of guys. I don't know if it was kind of shell shock after the first event or just that transition from really big weights in event 1 to really low weights in event 2 that kind of caught them off guard, but there was some teams last week that certainly looked like a deer in the headlights for the first 2 quarters of that match.
Almost every single person in their post-match interview was like, Lady Winnebago.
Yeah.
Winnebago does it again. So I think they all know what they're in for now. Hopefully they found some spots. Hopefully they're on some fish. And we've had some really, really nice weather.
Yeah. Yeah, that's coming in here looking at it like coming from last Wednesday, we've had a lot of consistency now.
Yeah.
We've had not as big a dips at night, which maintains the water temperature. We've had, like yesterday, crazy high temperatures, which is warming things up, but that water temp isn't able to drop down back to springtime typical temperatures when the nightly lows are in the 50s. So that's going to help a bunch. I also checked the wind, and we have a little bit of an east breeze tomorrow, east-southeast breeze, which is going to be a complete switch from what we saw in the first one. The first one, it was a hard northeast wind, 20 gusts over 40. It was blowing crazy. Tomorrow, I don't think that we're going to get to see the guys move around a lot more. They're going to have the options to go play on the entire system where that wind kind of kept some guys in some areas longer than they probably would have stayed.
That's a great point. We heard a couple of the anglers saying we're not even going to venture out into the waves, it was brutal out there.
Yep.
We saw multiple just bouncing for 4 hours to put that, your equipment, your body, everything through it. That was a lot. Great point. We heard a couple of them say we're not even going to try to do that. All that being said, we did see a lot of movement last week. We saw people moving, maybe not as far as they would have liked to move.
Right.
But, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what adjustments they make.
Yeah.
Knowing what they know from event number 2, moving on to event number 3, let's see if they change it up at all. We've seen in the past some of these anglers, they know what they know, and they stick with whatever, even if it doesn't work. So we'll see. I'm excited. I'm interested to see what they do, how they maneuver, and where they go.
It should be an interesting event. I think we're going to see a lot more of the system play. I think we're going to see guys spread out some. Had a lot of guys packed on top of each other in those transition areas. I think we're going to see guys spread out. There was also last week the difficulty with that wind of boat positioning and even bait positioning, like guys not being able to use their forward-facing sonar as well as they had on the first event because of the wind. It's tough to track those fish, especially in the shallower waters of Winnebago, when you're constantly doing this. So, with less wind, more stable conditions, these fish should be a little more predictable and should be able to be targeted by the anglers a whole lot easier than they were in event 1.
Are we going to see the water clear up a little bit? Less muddy?
We should.
Some murky water.
We absolutely should. We haven't had any rain recently. We haven't had much for the crazy wind. Yesterday it blew a little bit in the afternoon, but not as bad as what it could be, not as bad as what we saw in event 1. So I think we're going to see more stable water conditions as well as that water warming up a lot.
Yeah.
That high sun and high temperature yesterday is going to do a lot to the water and probably, hopefully, put these fish out of the springtime transition more into their stable post-spawn type places.
All right. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Winnebago Chain's a gigantic body of water,
Absolutely.
A lot of spots to hit up, and we'll see. We'll see where they go. We have some great matchups this week. I'm really looking to rebound from my picks last week. I took one on the chin. It was tough, and Tyler jumped way ahead in the standings. So let's jump right into matchup number 1. If you're good with that,
yeah,
anything else
let's let it ride.
Talk about the overall event. Okay,
we'll get to it in the matchups, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. We got the number 9 seed. The combo of John Derleen and Brody Barriachoa taking on father-daughter Grams.
Sean and
Riley Grams, the number 8 seed. So this is one of those 0-2 teams that needs to get a victory in the win column here. We've seen Barriachoa, Derleen jump out hot. Great first half team.
Correct.
Fall off a cliff in half number 2 in both events so far.
Yep.
And then the Grams. They squeaked by in event 1, put up 0 last week. I think they realize that they need to put up more weight to get a victory in this one.
Correct. Yeah, and there's really 2 things that stick out to me about this match. One, John and Brody starting hot in the first 2 events, like definitely in the conversation for a win.
Yeah.
Having it swept away in the tail half of that match, not being able to close out victories. And they've done a really good job of padding their weight. They have a really strong season total weight, but they're sitting 0-2. They need a victory. They need a victory bad. To bring it back to 1-2 would be huge in this event and go to Winnebago or go to the Bay after this, having close to a 500 record, getting that first win in the win column. And then on the flip side, you look at the Grams, and it is very much a story of season total weight. Yes, they have a win in the win column, but that blank last week, paired with their lower weight from event 1, puts them in a very tough spot if they take another loss. They have the lowest season total weight out of all of our teams currently, and that has them in a tough spot. That's a very important tiebreaker. The 7 weeks this season, there's less time to separate yourself just by record, and tiebreakers are going to come into this big time.
Yeah, I mean, Durling and Barry Ochoa, with one win, they can jump from ninth. You made a great point. Jump from ninth all the way into the playoff picture, into sixth. There's a lot that can go their way,
right,
if they get a win. But big if. You got to get the W.
Win. Bad.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, the Grams could put on a great day and jump themselves way up. And like we talked about, if they get a win this week,
2-1, man.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Winning record. Even with the lowest season total weight, winning record.
Yep.
And that's all you can ask for after the first 3 events.
Yeah, I agree. It should be a fun matchup. I think we haven't seen what the Grams can do yet.
Right.
2 pretty subpar. I mean, they got to win. That's great. But we still haven't seen them put a ton of weight on the boat. And I feel like it's there. It's just waiting to come out right
Correct.
now.
I feel like these first 2 events for them have been kind of trying to find their groove. I'm hoping we see them find their groove in this event number 3. They're going to. I know that Grams is a forward-facing guy. He likes to do that style of fishing, looking for active ones and casting right on their head. And with the conditions we have coming, he should be able to do that. And in the first one, he was able to do that. He just found himself in an area that wasn't really going off. And then in event 2, he was totally unable to do that chasing fish around bite because of the wind.
Yeah, I mean, that man must have been sore for the week. He was just bouncing that entire matchup. So, yeah, I think this has a lot of implications to it. Durling needs a win. Grams, if they win, they continue to ascend in the standings.
Correct.
This is going to be a lot of fun, and I mean, both of them do themselves a lot of justice to get a win here.
Yeah, I got a feeling we're going to be spending a lot of time on this match tomorrow just because of the implications that are coming with it.
Nice.
Especially if they're both putting fish on the board. That'll make this really a lot of fun.
That's the name of the game. Anything else with this matchup?
I do not think so. Like we said, it's a critical win for both of them, really, to put the exclamation point on the first half of the season.
More important to get a win for Durling or Grams?
I'm going to say Durling and Barry Ochoa, just to get that first head-to-head win in the book. Because, like we said, you can still win out. If you go 4-0 in the tail end of the season, you end with a winning record. And if they keep that season total weight up, chances are, even if there's a big log jam of them at that record, they still get in the playoffs. But you're banking on 4 wins and you don't have one yet 3 events into the season. So that's a lot of weight on something that literally we haven't held yet.
Yeah. I might argue that it's more important for the Grams to get a win here, because if they struggle, low weight and get a loss, I mean, we talked about Durling jumping up so many spots. The Grams are just, I mean, it's going to be a free fall for them.
Correct.
So, yeah. Excited. Hopefully they both know how important this matchup is. I was going to
say, it's important for both of them.
Yeah, this is a big one. We're in week 3, and it's a huge matchup right now. So, all right, let's jump to the next matchup. Joel Moots, who is his partner this week?
I confirmed with Kyle that J.R. Richter is his partner for tomorrow.
Is he a veteran of head-to-head? Does he have any head-to-head experience?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
All right. Well, Moots did himself a favor. They got a big win last week. They are now the number 7 seed at 1-1.
Yep.
Not bad. And they're taking on our number 2 seed, 2-0, Mitch Dawn and Kurt Yoder. Yeah. Huge win last week. 5 pounds in the boat, which doesn't seem like a ton, but my God, it was a ton last week. Sitting 2-0.
Right.
Only one other team can say that.
Yeah.
So what a great start for the duo of Dawn and Yoder. Man. Can they be stopped?
That's the question. They've certainly made a statement in the first 2. Mitch was on a mission before the start of this season, and he's proven that he's here to play.
Yeah.
This new duo with Mitch and Kurt is impressive, what they've done. They seem to work really well in the boat together. Even last week, event 2, it didn't sound like their game plan really went exactly to a T, but they found a way to adjust and they found a way to get the win, which is huge in head-to-head. So I think that they're one to watch. If they start their season 3-0, they're without a doubt in the question for that number 1 seed, barring a complete come apart in the second half of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a big matchup here. Last week, Moots put up 7 pounds in the boat. I mean, that's
second highest weight of the day, I believe.
Yeah.
So, and mostly in the first half, they got off to a hot start and just kind of maintained throughout the rest of the event. But both of these teams would consider themselves very proficient on the Winnebago system. So this is kind of the clash of the two locals here, and we're talking about one sitting at number 2 and the other one sitting further down. But if the Mootses win this one and Mitch and Kurt lose, like, they're tied. We're sitting at even, and I believe the season total weight goes to Mitch and Kurt. Yeah. But we're sitting at dead even coming down the stretch here. Like, we got Green Bay is our next event 3. Event 4 is Green Bay. Event 5, we are back here on Winnebago, I believe, and we are going to see one of the Bago teams fall below the other. And this might be a turning point matchup as far as the Moots getting in the playoff, the Moots duo getting in the playoffs, or Mitch and Kurt making a run at that number 1 seed.
With both these teams having relative success last week in a week where there wasn't much throughout the entire roster, do you think that they're going to make a lot of changes heading into this week, or are they just going to start hammering the same spots?
I got a feeling that both of them have been on the water to see what's up. I still feel like they got to start somewhere around where they ended their last one. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, as the old saying goes, but we'll see. I don't know. Both of these teams, like I said, know the system very well, and we could see a total 180 out of either of these teams if they hear of a hot bite or find another hot bite going somewhere else that they didn't get on in event 2. I wouldn't be shocked to see them all the way across the lake or in the upper lakes or in the river even.
Yeah. I'm interested with calmer conditions, how spread out all these fishermen are going to be. Fascinating stuff. Anything else with this one?
I think that we will see a trolling bite once again from the Mootses. They seemed very comfortable in that. The thing to watch is Bago notoriously gets pretty tough, especially in that trolling bite when it gets slick calm. So if we see those super slick conditions tomorrow, maybe the edge goes to the casters, which I believe Don and Yoder will be doing. We'll see. Time will tell. It's really a horse apiece because yesterday, the weatherman said it was going to blow hard out of the southeast. It didn't start blowing until noon, and it was hard out of the east when it did start. So we'll see.
All right. I mean, you guys are all about making changes out there.
Yeah.
Right? On the fly.
Yep. Gonna have to be.
That's right. All right. Third matchup. We have our number 1 seed, 2-0, put up 15 pounds last week. Eric McCoy and Steve Lobbs. They're the king of the hill right now. They are on a whole different playing field. Number 1 seed, riding high, putting up big weights in both events. They're taking on Alec Nickel and Damon Golke, who are no slouch.
No.
Either. They're the number 5 seed, 1-1 record. Nickel and Golke are a legitimate threat to taking these guys down. How do you think the champs stay on top?
I don't know. I really thought that we would see more of a pressure cooker in the last one, and it was nice for them to jump out to a decent little start in the beginning, but McCoy and Lobb seem totally unfazed by the whole thing. Like, they are the definition of a machine on the water. And in the flip side, the Nickel Golke boat seemed like kind of a train wreck, to be honest with you. Like, they got the win, and it was super fun to watch from the backside, but man, they were out in the waves. They were it was just wild. They were certainly having fun, but it was like, oh my gosh, these guys are like bull in a china shop right now. And we'll see. Maybe that's how it continues, and that's how they work best as a team. I just seeing how McCoy and Lobbs looked in the boat. Those two look like dangerous.
Yeah, in other sports, you talk about like seasoned vets, and they just look polished, and like you can't phase them. That's what these two look like. Yeah. They just look like, it's another day on the water. Yeah. No big deal. We're just out here hammering everything. Fish are just like giving up and jumping in the boat, saying, you guys got us. We're good. Whatever. Yeah, they're tough. They stupidly picked against them last week, and, not going to make that mistake again. These guys are tough, and till someone can even compete with them.
Right.
Everyone's looking up, man. It's just what it is right now. They are on a whole different playing field.
That being said, looking at Nickel and Golke and kind of hearing their post-match interviews and kind of how they operated in Event 2.
I like those two. I like them. Yeah.
I don't know. It certainly sounded like they were on a lot more fish than what they put on the board in Event 2. And if I know one thing about this duo, they put their time in. Oh, my goodness. They are on the water all the time. So if there is one team that's going to figure out the hot bite to knock off the number 1 seed, I got a feeling it's Nickel and Golke. They're two fishy dudes, first off. They got fishy senses without a doubt. They know what's up. They can read water really, really well.
Yep.
And you pair that with being on the water constantly, there is no better feeling than when you've got to be on the water for 4 or 5 days straight, and it just feels like you're a part of the environment. And you don't get that if you have interrupted time on the water. If you fish on Monday and then you don't get back out again until Wednesday, and then maybe Saturday you sneak out for a couple hours. But there's a lot of pages. It'd be like reading a book and skipping every 100 pages, right? You're missing a key chunk of information that if you're on the water all the time, you got the whole book, man.
They're great television as well.
Yeah, very entertaining.
Being on their boat, a lot of fun. Yeah, I like them. They put up 2 pounds last week, but they got to win.
Yeah.
And that's the name of this game. They weren't impressed with their performance. They got to win, though. So, yeah, I like them. I like Nickel and Golke a lot. Again, great entertainment.
Yeah.
They're just facing a monster.
Yeah, absolutely they are.
If you're going to bring your A game, this is the week to do it.
Absolutely.
This is the week you have to do it because just McCoy and Labs they're on a different playing field right now.
Yeah.
So that's not to say they cannot be beaten.
Right.
You just need to bring your best to compete with them.
Absolutely.
Also a sidebar, Alec Nickel, his interview with me, it will be on Fix and other socials after the show. So fun interview. Nice to get to know Alec. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
Very likable. And yeah, enjoy everyone.
There's a reason he has the following that he has. He's a very relatable, charismatic guy, and he's a lot of fun on camera.
Yeah,
a lot.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And then, Golke is a character.
Yeah, he is. Absolutely.
So, yeah, a lot of fun with those two. It'll be interesting if you call upset when we make our picks at the end. We'll see where we're sitting right there.
I'm still undecided here.
That's right. All right, our fourth matchup, brothers Katowski, Nick and Andrew, sitting at 1-1, the number 4 seed. Creeping into Winnebago again. They're taking on number 10, 0-2, Joe Okada. Joe has struggled thus far in the head-to-head format.
Yeah, we talked about it coming into the season. Is the solo going to be difficult for him? And he managed it really well during the PWS, but this right now is very uncharacteristic for him to have the start that he's had. And we're right back on Winnebago where he took a loss last week. So I don't know. This is another matchup to watch. We got a lot of great matchups this week, but this is another one where the Katowskis do not want to go 0 for again on Bago. Like they have made that very clear. They put that first one on the board in Event 2 very early. Felt like the momentum was kind of in their favor, like maybe they'd righted the ship on Bago. And then that was it. Fell apart. That was it.
Yep.
And Joe, I believe he only put that one scoreable fish in the boat.
Yep, 1-2. This would have been just a fun matchup last week. 1-2 to 1-1.
Right.
It would have been a ton of fun. But, yeah. Do you think it's just a mindset thing right now with the Katowskis? Like, they just got to get over the Winnebago hurdle.
Right.
Like, it's just a wall right now in front of them. They just got to get over it.
Yeah. It's like you see it sometimes in baseball where a good team has one team that's in their conference that they just cannot beat. You got a pitcher or something that the hitters just cannot figure out or something. And this seems like the Katowskis' Achilles heel here, like the Bago swing, and they got to figure it out because, like we said, if you go 0 for on Bago this year, even if you win out on Green Bay, you're still right there one event over 500. So that's no way to win the number 1 seed.
As a fisherman, how do you get over this hurdle? Because it is definitely a mindset right now. They know, they're aware. Mm-hmm. They know going into this event, like it's Winnebago, here we go. How do you get over that? Is it just a crazy amount of pre-fishing? Is it something you work on mentally? Like, how do you do it?
It's both. You need to put your time in on the water. That's the best way to do it. If you have some place that has your number, try and familiarize yourself and talk to someone who knows that body of water fairly well. Not so much for spots or anything, but just general information.
Yeah,
like that's one of the best ways is network with your guys. Like if you. The Katowski brothers are well connected in the area, and if they know someone who knows Bago really well, like, tell me what I got to do here. Just give me some general information, because I feel like I'm so far out in left field that I just can't get it going. And then what we saw in event 1, if they could have just kept that going, getting that early bite to feel that confidence, feel like we're back on the bay, that's super critical too. So if we see the Katowskis go over in the first 2 quarters tomorrow, oh my goodness, the mental demons in that boat are going to be out of control.
Yeah. And then on the flip side, you got Joe Okada, who's usually Mr. Joe Cool, under control. And I mean, he got a penalty last week.
Right.
We don't see Joe Okada get penalties. No. So he's got to realize that this is a huge, huge matchup.
Yeah.
And not an easy one for him. The Katowskis are no joke. Joe can't go 0-3.
No.
Man. We talked about it earlier. Going 0-3 is you're darn near a death sentence at this point. So what's Joe got to do? He's got to get some weight on the boat.
Absolutely. Sure. That's first and foremost. Get out to a decent start. Yeah. Like, get the ball rolling. Make the adjustments that you have to, and just put some fish on the board. And it sounds so simple talking about it in here, but it's like once you get out on the water, man, it's eating at you inside. Like as the time winds down, like, gosh, I just need a couple more and I'm right here. But looking at the course of the season, we saw it in event 1. These high weight matchups are going to be difficult for Joe Okada because he's by himself.
Yeah.
And when we come down the stretch, those last 2 on Green Bay, those are going to be big weight events, without a doubt. Guys are going to catch them. It's going to be like what we saw at the tail end of last season and into the playoff bracket, where big fish, good numbers, a strong pace to stay ahead. These are the events that Joe needs, because they are probably going to be lower weight. 1 guy versus 2 guys, it doesn't matter so much when you're talking about 2 or 3 fish, but when you're talking about 20 or 30 fish, now you're talking about a large percentage that your partner could be contributing to the day. So this is without a doubt I'm not going to say a must win, because this is still Joe Okada. He can still hit his stride.
Feel free to say must win, because I feel like it's a must win.
If he starts 0-3, we are in for an uphill battle for Joe Okada to get into the playoffs, and that is crazy to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is the platform to say must win. Joe, I think you need to win this matchup. It's a must win for Joe Okada.
This would be a big favor, a huge favor.
Because he doesn't have the tiebreak weight to fall back on either right now. So, he just needs to start pulling out W's here.
And at the same time, it's wild if Joe gets the win that we'd be talking about the defending champs with a losing record after the first 3 events.
Yeah.
Kind of the same arc that they followed last season. At that point, we saw them start really hot last year, dip off when we came to the Winnebago swing, and then have to finish strong just to make the bracket, and then have the underdog chip on their shoulder all the way through the playoff bracket. So this is another one where both teams would love to get a win. I can promise you that.
Yeah. Katowskis are good enough to figure out Winnebago. Yeah. They just got to do it.
Yeah, they are strong anglers, and I know that they're both super busy in their professional and personal lives too, and that's a large part of what's making this so difficult, is they haven't had the time. They have all those years of experience to rely on on the bay. Come to Bago, they've spent significantly more time on the bay than they have Winnebago, I believe, and that's where this whole snake bit by Winnebago thing is coming in strong.
All right, our last and final matchup. Robert Kloss and Nick Ackley, they are the number 6 seed. They're 1-1, got a big win last week. They're taking on our number 3 seed with a 1-1 record, Cody Solberg and Ted Miller, coming off a gigantic goose egg from last week. Did not expect that from Ted and Cody.
No.
But can they right that ship?
They've certainly proven that they are the anglers to right the ship. that being said, once again, much more Bay guys than Bago guys. We'll see what happens here because they certainly looked snake bit in the first one. Like deer in the headlights, not like typical Ted and Cody. Last year, we just applauded how well they worked together in the boat, how systematic their whole approach seemed. Last week, I did not get that vibe at all from that boat. It seemed like, once again, bull in a china shop, like let's just throw stuff at the board and see what sticks, and nothing ever stuck. And you talk about season total weight. They now, after last week, have to put up their season total weight with only a total of 6 events because they took the goose egg.
Yep.
You talk about even 4 or 5 pounds and look at last year's playoff implications, tiebreakers, the whole 9. 4 or 5 pounds of spots. That's multiple seeds in certain instances, and it's could come around to bite them if they can't figure out a way to right this ship.
If we know Ted and Cody like we know Ted and Cody, they want to be the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they're going to be chasing some big weights because ultimately they're chasing the guys in front of them.
Correct.
Hoping for a loss out of them, but ultimately they have to put in a bunch of weight. So I'm excited to see their strategy coming into this week. Maybe they chase a little bigger fish.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. I know that it sounds like they're going to make some adjustments from just what I've heard pre-tournament. So we'll see. Sometimes that's a really good thing and they figure the deal out, and sometimes it's a really bad thing because you end up even further off in left field. So I don't know. We'll see. It might, if Ted and Cody can embrace this whole, we are not the number 1 seed anymore, we are now chasing, we are not being chased. If they can embrace this whole mentality and work this underdog deal all the way through, they no longer are undefeated. They no longer control their own destiny. They can just do what they have to do to get wins week after week and see how it lays at the end of the season. So we'll see. I think it may be a good thing for them to put a little chip on their shoulder and start chasing instead of being chased.
Yeah, light that fire. Ted made a comment last week about it was essentially like, well, if we're going to lose, we're going to put up 0.
Right.
Not the best strategy in head-to-head, Ted.
Yeah.
You need some weight in the boat. He knows that, I'm sure. And on their opposition, Klaus and Ackley, number 6 seed. What's their total weight this year? Okay. A lesser weight.
Yep.
A lesser weighted team, but sitting 1-1. Number 6, currently in the playoffs.
Right.
Awesome.
Good spot.
It's a great spot. Get wins any way you can in head-to-head. What are they going to have to do differently this week?
I think that they're going to need more weight than what they put up in event 2 to hold off Ted and Cody, because I feel like Ted and Cody will crack the nut. Yep. That being said, Bob Klaus has got a lot of experience on Winnebago, and I got a feeling that he felt kind of restricted just looking at how he played that game plan because of the weather in event 2. And ultimately, it was the decision to go out into the teeth of that wind that got him the win. I don't think they get that win if they stay in the mouth of the river where they were camped out for the majority of that match. If he's got the whole lake to play with and the wind isn't holding him back, the weather conditions aren't holding him back, I have a strong feeling that Bob Klaus might be able to rely on his knowledge, Nick's knowledge. Nick is no slouch on Winnebago either. This is more of a battle than I think a lot of people think it will be for Ted and Cody. I think Bob's going to have something to say about this because, he said in his post-match interview the last time, it would be great to make the playoff bracket, but we really just want to have fun and learn. These guys are true competitors. In my opinion, it's a little bit of a front that he's putting out there that, hey, it doesn't matter a whole bunch to us, but I know these two. They want to be in the playoff bracket. Just the vibe that I get from this team is they want to be competitive against this group of anglers because this is some hammers, and Bob wants to prove that he's one of the best on the system.
Yeah, and rightfully so. That's how they all should.
Correct. They're all ultra competitive.
Yeah, for sure. Nice. Should be a fun matchup.
Yeah.
And again, we're going to see wins and losses, how much these teams are going to jump in the standing. It's going to fluctuate a ton here because quite the log jam. All right, 5 great matchups. Now the moment everyone's been waiting for, Ty. Do we have a fan vote this week?
We do. Let me check on that.
All
see
right.
where we are at with that deal. If you want to get in on the fan vote, head over to Head to Head on Facebook and Instagram. On our story, you will see there is a poll with the matchups. We have currently...
So far, the fans have been
pretty automatic.
Accurate. Yeah.
Pretty automatic.
I myself have not.
All right. We have Darlene and Barry Ochoa are favored in their match over the Grams, 68%.
Okay, who are you going with in that one?
I am going with Darlene and Barry Ochoa as well in that one.
I also have Darlene and Barry Ochoa in that one.
On to the Mootses versus Dawn and Yoder. Dawn and Yoder are favored 78% in that one.
Okay. Who are you going with?
I am also going with the fans on this one.
As am I. Okay. We're on the path to be either very
This is
correct.
good for me because
Yeah,
I maintain my lead either way.
That's true.
Works in my favor.
All right, the matchup.
Yeah, McCoy and Lobs. I'm not totally surprised they're favored 62%, but I got a feeling that the Nickel and Golke Army is going to get on this too, and it's going to be very tight in this fan vote.
All right, who are you? I already put in I staked my claim.
Yeah.
I'm not going against them. I might be the jinx, and I apologize, gentlemen, if I am. But I'm going with McCoy and Lobs here. Who are you going with?
I've said it all year. I ain't changing it now.
Yeah.
I'm going with McCoy and Lobs.
That's the hammer.
Like I said, they looked like a well-oiled machine in that first one and the second one.
All right, Katowskis. I'm going to go with Katowskis here over Joe.
The Katowskis are also the pick of the fans, 70% over Joe.
And the pick of Ty.
I am also going Katowskis.
Katowskis as well.
I just cannot bet against the defending champ.
All right. Let's hope they get over their Winnebago Demons.
Yeah.
And the final matchup, Kloss, Ackley, Solberg, Miller, where the fans sit.
73% Miller and Solberg.
Ted's got about 18 different accounts.
Correct.
He's in there hammering that.
Exactly right.
Voting for himself. I got it.
Account.
All right. I also am going Solberg and Miller.
This is where I've changed my mind on this one. I'm going Kloss and Ackley.
Okay.
I just got a feeling. And Ted, I know you're watching.
Come on,
Ted. This is a shot in the butt for you. Get it in gear, boys. We need to right the ship here. And Kloss and Ackley, I got my money on you guys because I think that the experience puts you guys just a hair ahead. I think it's going to be a great matchup.
I would love that. Come on, Ted. Ted and Cody, let's go. I need all the help I can get with my picks here. So come on, boys.
Yep.
Yeah, it'll be great. Katowskis, feel free to stop by with some cookies.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a welcomed gift last week. Event 3 should be a lot of fun, Ty. 6:45.
Yep.
You
start
yapping at that time.
Join me and Nick live in the studio at that time. We'll go lines in at 7 o'clock, and then it's all out from 7 till 11, as all out as it can be on Winnebago.
Let's hope we get a bunch of fish in the boat.
Yeah,
and
more fish, gentlemen.
Yeah, have a great event.
Yeah.
Yeah, event number 3 should be a lot of fun. Come check it out. All the action right here on Fix, on YouTube. But yeah, event number 3 on the Walleye side of things. Come check it out. Head-to-head's going to be a lot of fun. 6:45 tomorrow morning. Till we see you then, be great.